So, hi everybody. I'm Alex, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing tonight before we get started. So, of course, we at Spike are here to help persons get their business to be as profitable as possible through the customer experience. All the research that we have indicates that that's the new frontier, and that's where everybody has to compete in order to make the most coin right now. So I get messages from time to time with various questions, and this one I think is really topical: to tip or not to tip. So we have Dionne with us. Dionne is a trained chef. Dionne is a managing director for a restaurant. Dionne knows that industry from the top to the bottom. But I want us to pay attention to, even if we're not in the food industry, because a lot of this is applicable to other industries, other industries as well. Tipping is not just for food service, right? Or hospitality. So I want us to be open to that. Dionne, is there anything you want to say to our live now?
Okay. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. There are going to be a few topics that we're going to, or a few parts of the topic that we're going to touch on. At the forefront of my mind is basically the philosophy behind tipping and how it really varies based on demographic, right? So Jamaicans definitely tip differently from Americans in general, right? There are definitely stereotypes when it comes to like across racial lines how people tip. Like you'll hear a lot of food service people or they might shy away from, serving black tables or even Asian ones because they'll think that people are cheap, right? So they're not going to tip and they're just going to give you a hard time and try to get discounts, right? And a lot of the time, black people will actually overcompensate to try to dismiss that stereotype, right? Because they know that it is there, right?
Right. So what Enrique is saying is, I haven't found any research that supports that, but that's definitely an anecdotal statement that there is a bias with depending on the culture and depending on the race. Those of us who have worked in it, I'm sure a lot of us will say, we see that in our day-to-day, but I don't know if we're looking out for it or if it's a fact, because I haven't seen anything that solidifies it, but we'll get more into that in a little while. I want us to just outline that we're going to be taking it from 3 different angles. So we're going to talk about it from the company's perspective, we're going to talk about it from the wait staff perspective, and of course the customer. So I guess we can start with the company. And one of the biggest things we hear is customers don't like when the tip is mandatory or it is built into their bill. So you get the bill and you see a percentage there, or you get something that says, if you have a size group of such amount, then the tip is this, and you know that up front. So let's hear your take on it, Dionne.
Okay. Tipping varies in different parts of the world, right? So in food service industries in Europe, for example, where the food service professionals are more protected and they make their dollar is also stronger in a lot of places, so they're able to really pay the workers a really good wage, right? So a lot of the times the tipping that is customary in say America can be seen as excessive or even insulting to some people, right? Because it's just loud, it's just too much. You see what I'm saying? Right?
Yes.
That's one thing to consider. Another thing that has to be considered is the price, the fact that food is actually priced. There's a price floor that has been set, right? Or not a price floor, a price ceiling, I guess you could say, right? Because I don't really think food, if you're really supposed to look at what food costs, most places do not actually charge what food really costs. Most of us charge underneath that, right? And so we end up working with really small margins, because if people were supposed to actually pay what food costs, none of us would be able to afford food, right?
Okay, here we have some comments coming in, Dionne. Someone says the company they work with doesn't allow tipping, so that's a management decision there. Another question is, does management actually give the staff the tip when it is built in? And people have a concern about that.
Yes.
Where does the money go?
It goes to the staff directly. Okay, so before we even touch on tipping that people think is included, I want to actually touch on the words that are used, right? So you'll see different words on a bill. You'll see service charge, you'll see gratuity, right? And a lot of the times people use the words interchangeably, but service charge, right, is not actually tip. There are sometimes when people use it as tip, right? But service charge is really all of the components that go into being able to carry out the service. So it would include silverware, breakages, glassware, extra coordination and labor intensive things that will have to do with larger tables. All of those, the little candy we want to get within the receipts, like all of those things included in service charge, right? A lot of people don't know that. Right? Or a lot of the times when with weddings and stuff like that, you'll see that a service charge might be added to the actual invoice, right? And it is to be able to carry out all of these things, right? Those things come at a cost, and it's not a food cost, right? It's a service charge.
Right. So I think, we've seen some other things coming here. Some people say they always tip. You start with a tip and you work your way out of it. Better the service, better the tip. Okay. I'm never of the impression that staff gets the gratuity. So a few things I want to point out before we move on. Okay. Right? Dionne is pointing out that they have a service charge, and the service charge sometimes doesn't have anything to do with gratuity. Depends on where you... Some people use it interchangeably, but that's not exactly the case. I think most of us might be familiar with service charge when we have big functions or so, but not necessarily when we go to just eat out with friends or something like that. So
I can tell you what I do. If somebody charges on a card, what I will do at the end of the night, because each server's name is printed at the bottom of the receipt, right? So I just give them the cash that is the equivalent to what is on the receipt, and they get that the same night. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. So I understand people's fears here. So that is what Dionne does, and that is very good. But we know that that's not. Well, I know that that's not the case with everywhere that we can go to get service. So that is something that we will cover with persons on a case by case basis, because it is true that you're kind of losing the customers trust in your policy, because customer already doesn't believe that the staff is getting the money, so they believe that they're somehow being ripped off. So that is something that business owners have to keep in mind when they're setting up their policies and procedures and how they're going to go about executing. The staff starts with a tip, and based on the staff, they can start deducting based on their service. Okay, go ahead, Dionne.
I can give you a specific example. Restaurant week. Alright, so restaurant week, my menu ends up being like $1,850, right? Plus tax. A lot of the people, they will see that and be like, oh, $1,850, cool, me not have to tip, right? So it's the same amount of work, and I'm charging almost below what the food costs me, right? So I will use restaurant week as a promotional venture, right? Because I don't actually make money. So when I have to put in a service charge now to ensure that my people them get service, right? Because people will not want to do it, right? So, and I make sure that, and so that's the only time of the year that I actually do pooled tips, right? So at the end of the week, the whole restaurant week, All of the tips are calculated, and it's given to kitchen and wait staff.
All right, so that brings us to one of the questions that came up. So, if you're tipping, and this is something that the customer has to contend with, right? You go out and you have to tip. Is it that you're supposed to be tipping based on each person that interacts with you or helps you through your service, or are you just to be giving one tip? How does that go? Does the wait staff split it among themselves, or what is the responsibility there?
Okay, which brings me to the two basic tipping structures that establishments will have, which is either the pool tip or tipping out, right? So pool tips now is like any tips that a server will get, it has to go to the host, and then the host divide it up amongst all the members of the operation, right? Now, that has its pros and its cons. For example, if you just start working at establishment, right, you don't really know the ins and outs of what's going on. You're still catching your bearings, but you still go get your tip at the end of the night, even though you don't know jack shit, right? Works, right? Okay, but let's say that you're a seasoned waiter now, and you have to actually carry the new people, and at the end of the night, you're still getting the same amount of tip as them. And then also, how can we know that people are actually giving the actual tip what them get? Most of the times, a lot of people are not, right? So people still end up getting shortchanged, right? Then with tipping out now, right? It's a lot of people. It has a lot of instant gratification. Like if it is that you get a nice big tip, it's kind of like, yeah, really get a nice big tip, top boss, whatever. And you will find what it does is when the rest of the staff realizes that staff member does not actually share or realize that it is teamwork that allowed them to get that good of a tip. Because let's say the kitchen was late on the order, the bartender messed up the flavor profile of a drink, all of those things. Would you still anticipate that good of a tip from the table that you're serving? Probably not, because they still all view that as a whole part of the experience and probably not feel inclined to tip as much.
Right, so this brings us to one of the other points, which is, how the wait staff is going to deal with the situation. Because just as in any other business, it is a team effort that gets you to the end goal. Yeah. No customer is going to go to any establishment of any kind and not see everything holistically. You are going to label the business accordingly. So everyone has to be able to work together for them to achieve the goal overall. And in this case, we're talking about getting a good tip. So if the tip is good, then the entire team can benefit from that, and that is something that has to be dealt with inside the business. So that is an internal issue for the business to set their culture to say, okay, we get good tips, this is how we're going to deal with it. How are we going to ensure that everybody who contributed to the service gets benefit? And that is something for management to discuss amongst themselves and their team members, but I don't think the customer should not have to be faced with that. You are going to just tip based on what happens.
So a lot of establishments don't allow tipping, period. You see what I'm saying? It just kind of just get rid of all of this hullabaloo, all of this. Because
yes, which is what Sigourney was saying. Sigourney said that earlier, her establishment does not allow tipping.
Right.
I think though that sometimes the guests still feel bad because they think they get good service, and it's generally understood that when you work in that capacity, you're not making a lot of money. So people want to be able to show their appreciation. So in a case like that, what is the customer to do? Sigourney, in your establishment, what happens since the customers are not allowed to tip? You can tell us. You can answer as well, Dionne.
If they don't allow tipping, there's some really forceful people that will literally shove the money into your pocket. happened, I've worked in establishments where tipping was not allowed, right? So what they would do instead is, oh, if you had good service, we have a foundation that you can donate the money to, right? You can drop it in such and such, and the money will go towards whatever, right? So that's one way they try to circumvent or whatever. But other than that, say thanks. That going guest, that is the best gift that anybody can give. Honestly, be an easygoing guest.
So I see some comments here talking about what we're saying. Some people, Kelly is saying sometimes she's fearful that the person who she wants to get the tip isn't getting the tip. She's also saying more than one person serves me. Who do I tip?
Which brings me to another part of tipping that which is why I say it will vary, right? And we haven't really gotten to the part of the topic where we talk about the basis upon which people tip, right? Is it merit? Is it based on the overall figure of the bill, like percentage? In establishments where it is where it's more fine dining and there's a lot more involved in the actual service, right? When you have a back waiter, a front waiter, a runner, a Somali, all of these different people, and you're kind of wondering, well, who the hell do I tip, right? The tip is, most of the time, it's pooled or it goes to the head waiter.
Okay. And this is an interesting comment. Sigourney is saying that tipping has caused service scores to drop.
Right.
I guess
actually been studies in many different restaurants that have proven that to actually be true, because it does cause a lot of infighting among staff, and that ends up having a bleed over, right, into overall performance, because it causes a lot of friction.
Right. Yes, and here Sigourney is saying staff tend to give better service to bigger tippers. Yes, but I find that the places that don't allow tips are usually ones that compensate their staff better than the ones that allow tips. So that is something to consider as well. I mean, just as in all other service industries, what you do for your internal customer, your staff, is going to be reflected in how they deal with the clients.
I mean,
so if you
larger food establishments, as in like bigger than say like a medium, small, or micro business, right? Yeah. Able to do that, right? A lot of us cannot. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. Yeah.
What if the head waiter did not give good service?
Ooh, well then, alright, so from a customer perspective, if the head waiter did not actually give good service, I would probably give it to the back waiter, if I got good service from the back waiter, which would be the person who like served the drinks or was at the table, like that type of stuff.
Okay, so I think a lot of people in our life right now would be interested to know, like, what do you do as a customer? So you know that you are gonna tip, maybe it's a pool tip. If you go ahead and tip the person who you want to tip, what is the effect inside the business?
What I've seen is that it causes a lot of distrust and contempt, because people will feel like you're shortchanging them. Right? I understand from the point of view from the customer, right? I definitely do, right? It could be, if it is that you do have somebody that's exceptional in terms of, the thing is though, I know of an establishment, for example, where the person, you can't even really judge it on the person who gets the most tips, because what if that person just knows how to turn over tables quickly and just ends up just making a lot of tips because of quantity and not necessarily quality, right? So it's kind of hard to gauge, which is why a lot of people don't really even do pool tips, right? Because they see more of the cons.
Right. So some of these things the customer should you don't think about it. Do what you think, what you feel is right, and the company has to have their own policies to help them to deal with things like this and maintain a good environment inside so that the customer will keep coming back. So one of the other aspects we looked at, which Dionne just touched on, is the ability to turn over tables quickly. So that's a very real thing, and the research shows that if you are busy, if the restaurant is busy, you don't, and this is for the persons who are in that industry, maybe you're a manager or something, or you are running somewhere. If you are busy, that is not the time for your waiters or waitresses to be upselling people, because if you have a lot of people coming, they're gonna have people sitting at those tables too long just to order desserts. Whereas if they allow them to go, they would have another table buying entrees, which is gonna generate more money. And that's the case. That's the case for other industries as well. If you are a hairstylist, don't have the person sitting in your chair trying to pitch them to do something else when you have other people there ready and waiting. But that is only the case when you are busy. If you are not busy, then you upsell. And that is coming from research studies, research papers from the School of Hotel Administration. And they did 15 studies across the globe. Let me see what Tiana is saying.
Tiana said that then tea for a tip. Hi, Tiana.
I was a cocktail waitress when it was alive. Wow. Yeah, I mean, you will always have some unfortunate situations like that, and the management has to know how they are going to handle it when it does happen. Because it's just as the staff needs to take care of the guests, management needs to take care of the staff.
What was I going to talk about next? Okay, in relation to turning over the tables, upselling can work. If you want to, it can work if you want people to make decisions quickly. And you're like, I don't know which dessert to order. You just tell them something just so they can buy something, right? And then you hurry up and turn over the table, right? So the upselling can work.
Yes, man. I understand what you're saying, but that, I mean, what I was referring to is when you're taking your time, you're being really pleasant, you're going through everything, giving the details, the whole schmoozing thing. That's great when it's slow. Here, Anake is saying sometimes you have to beg the waiter to pay the bill. That's true, and those are seemingly small things that management has to pay attention to and know when they need to switch gears so they can get the most out of the time that they have. And that's true for other industries as well. Yes, Dionne, there is an art to it. Tell them what to buy. Yes.
It's true.
So what the number one thing that they proposed? Go ahead.
No, I was saying that especially when it is that you have a product that a lot of your customers might not be very well educated on. Like, for example, let's say it's a wine bar or something, and they're like, I don't know what wine to buy or whatever. A lot of the times, if you ask some of these waiters to recommend something, they're gonna recommend the most expensive one because they know that people tip based on percentage. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, because the number one thing was to sell a bigger total bill. So that's exactly what you're saying. When the bill is higher, the tip is higher. When the bill is higher, the tip is higher.
Can clear up this question for me? What if
on the
that
topic,
upsell money comes out to be way more than what the other guest is paying?
I don't really understand.
I want her to clarify it for me. Yeah. While she going to clarify that.
Yeah.
what is the next thing you wanted to ask?
No, I wanted to talk about this to see if this has proven true for you. One of the main things that came out as well is that you should personalize your appearance. So even if you work somewhere, of course, you have a uniform, you should do something that sets you apart so people will recognize you or perhaps be drawn to you. Also, the studies show that like if you are a waitress and you are allowed to accessorize, you put bows or flowers in your hair or something like that, and the tips are higher from 18% to 22%.
Well, it depends on who the diner is, right? Because what it's asking people to know, tap into is the idea of familiarity, right? So people, if they see something personalized, they'll be like, oh, well, I know something about her. I know her, right? So I feel more comfortable, right? So, like Shanique, she wears like really thick glasses. People will have an she's like, oh yeah, the lady with the glasses, right? And she will get, very good tips because she's polite and, people feel like they know something about her and that type of stuff.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm supposed to tip on the entire total budget.
Yes, something that was really interesting. I don't know how many people on the live you've ever gone to a restaurant and perhaps they give you like something to draw, or they give you a drawing, something that you can look at. Perhaps you're waiting or something, or even when they give the children something to color, or they tell you something about the weather forecast. Like these are small things that are just like less than a minute to communicate or do, and you see a significant rise in the percent of the tip as well. So if people just want to feel like you care about something apart from just getting their money.
Connection. People want to feel a connection. So whether or feeling like they know you because you're the girl with the flower in her hair, or feeling like you told them something special about the weather, it's just it's just a connection. But I feel like it's typical to tip on the total. Because it had to be served, and a lot of people tip based on technically service, but we all know that it's all encompassing. Okay. I wanted to see what Tiana.
Oh, here Tiana explained it. She said, I said, do not upsell if you are busy. Do not have people waiting if you are busy. What if the person you are going to upsell is paying more than the person who is waiting?
Right, that's why I say.
But how would you know? I mean, of course, what I'm saying is not, it can't be used in a too broad of a context. You have to contextualize it.
Yeah.
But in a general setting, say we're taking it back to the restaurant setting. In general, the next person coming is going to buy an entree. Meanwhile, the person who is still there, they already finished their entree, they're going to buy a dessert. The dessert is not the same price. So having them sit there, you're not making the most money you could. You're going to be polite, but don't prolong the experience for them.
Would I know long talking? Are them people that get me tip? Me not lie. Them people that get first, don't call me no hun. I don't care about your picnic. I don't care. Where's the food at? Right?
Right. Yes, that's another important point. So sometimes people are a little bit too familiar. So yes, you want to be friendly, but you don't want to be too familiar. So even in terms of touching the customer, if you touch them for more than, what was it? If you touch them for more than 5 seconds, it's uncomfortable. The most you can do is rest a hand on the shoulder and then you go about your business. But don't be too handsy.
Yeah, no,
don't be too handsy. But Tiana, based on, sorry, go ahead.
I'm putting out their business.
Tiana, in another context, like if you say it's here and the thing is, yes, you want to cater to as many people as you can, but if the person is not sitting down in front of you right at that moment, you can spread things out. You can set up a timing that is best for you. but you don't want to lose out on the lifetime value of a client because you are just sitting down with this one because they're going to pay a lot right now. So you have to think about it that way as well. Touching. I don't need any waiter touching me.
I agree. Don't touch me. Yana is not friend.
I agree with Dionne. I get my food and no long talking.
I didn't come here to enjoy your company.
That never happened. Kelly, what never happened in Jamaica yet? I tip based on service. I tip based on service too. And one of the things I experience is that if the waiter doesn't get a tip that they think that they want, they start to give you an attitude toward the end, which will make me not come back to that place at all, or I might go and tell the manager what my experience was.
Manager.
So if I would suggest, if you're experiencing things like that, tell the manager. It's up to them to figure it out, and if you don't feel like going back, that's your prerogative as well, but that's something that the businesses need to pay attention to.
Kelly said nobody asked about with that. This some of them they talk about how it's hot still. Yeah, they will say it's hot.
Yeah, please tell them friendly and polite doesn't mean flirt. You have to learn the types of customers that come into the establishment. When you engage initially, sometimes you can know how to go about dealing with that customer in terms of conversation, serving. That is true. That is true. You need persons who can pick up on people quickly, be able to read them and see where they are. Friendly and polite does not mean flirting. The weather convo and the art to view. And why do they always want to interrupt conversations happening at the table? That is true, Kelly.
No, Kelly Dawn is right. Okay, so when I was learning to be a server, that was definitely a topic that they wanted to drive home to us. The thing is though, especially when you have certain stages of service and you need to get things going, sometimes you really find a way to interrupt the table to get things going, right? Like to get to our next course or to clear for our next course and stuff like that, because all of those things, if they're not done in time, will stall the entire service, right? And it will mess up the kitchen, right? And all of those type of things. So it's a line that has to be told.
I agree. It's a line that has to be told, but I think we will both agree, because you did training on this as well. You have to watch what's going on and pick a moment. And if you don't have a choice but to interrupt, acknowledge that you're interrupting, give some form of reasoning, and then you do what you're doing and hurry up and get out. But you don't just linger there, because clearly the patrons have something that they need to discuss.
Right.
Here Tiana is saying, I think because they are hurrying.
Oh, the random how you doing, like checking up on the table, like no, like Kelly Dawn is right. Yeah, that's annoying. Like, read the room, dude. Like, please don't talk to me.
Yes, so clearly in situations like those, people just need training. They don't really understand what's going on.
Is it training?
Like that seems enough, man. You're upset.
Yeah. Kelly's venting.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, this is a big one. How much should you tip? I know a lot of persons on live already said that they're going knowing that you're going to tip. Some people say they're going knowing that they're going to tip, and you can work yourself out of that tip or work yourself into a better tip. But what should the starting point be? Kelly, like them blind.
And I say, clearly the chicken leg is still in my head, sir.
What's Shanique about Kelly bitter?
So Kelly is fully having a therapy session in the live.
Happy therapy session. Yes, so alright people, tell us where you normally start in terms of tip. What normally comes to mind?
Yeah, let's get a consensus first.
Yeah, what normally comes to mind? Say the bill comes up to 5,000 Jamaican dollars. How much you think you would tip? Most times they forego this tip. Your bill is 5,000. What are you instinctively tipping? Waiting for your responses, guys. 5 to 10%, 20%.
20% is my base. That's my base. Right? If you really drop the ball, 5 to 10. If you exceed, 25 to 30.
1,500, 10%. 300. Nah, tip based on my bill. After them to put money in my pocket. So, what amount of tip is considered an insult? What is an insulting tip? If the ball fell, your tip left the room.
Honestly, nobody don't have any that tip is insulting. If people can afford what they can afford, right? Some people do not prioritize tipping, and that's just a damn thing. Nobody don't need to take it personal, right? Sometimes people review your service with their tip, right? So if you realize that you get a poor tip based on, what you think was delivered, you should check yourself and kind of figure out what you do.
Okay, Kelly is here saying $100 is an insult. I'd rather not tip you.
Look here. Do I slightly side eye people who do that? Yes, but I don't really have the time to really wonder why people do the things they do at this point. Right? I have a job to get on and do. So I don't really look at it. As far as I'm concerned, every mickle make a muckle. You want to give me $100? Honestly, you can't help me buy a phone card. I'm happy.
Here's an interesting comment. Nika says, anything less than the suggested tip to me is an insult.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes I find the suggested tip exorbitant, especially if I don't think it matches the service.
Okay.
But I tip all the time. This is nice, even if I don't like the service. You're way better than me. I'm not tipping if I don't like the service.
I will tip a small amount to say that, hey, this was shitty. Thanks.
Well, I'm not saying thanks. Who is? Alright, so here is something. Dionne and I differ on this point. If the service is says she's going to tip, but it's gonna be a poor tip. Here is Tess. Oh, there was a time people didn't tip. I'm happy we're beyond that.
So, although I don't know.
The whole tip thing still shocks me, and I don't think I'm the only one with this view. But here's what I think, right? If I go somewhere for a service and you are charging me for this service, sometimes I think like, why am I tipping you for what I'm paying you to do? So in my mind, if you didn't do anything beyond what I am paying for you to do, or you didn't do anything that made my experience great, in my mind I don't feel like I should be tipping you. So that's how it goes in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
What does everybody else think? Oh, yeah, Dre, not slow tip. She wanna give us 100%.
No, but she said that she go and go balance.
No tip. What you want me take the nails they can go home, go ball? You're not easy.
Leave us alone, please, thanks.
Yes, dear, what do you think about what I was just said?
No, I'm saying all of it is fear. I think all of it is fear, right? Because it just goes into different people's psychology and looking at things. Bad service, no tip, and that is fine, right? It means that the person should reconsider their job.
Yes, it's Cindy saying the same thing. Tip for service beyond reasonable expectations. As expected, no tip. Bad service, you get reported.
and I also don't see.
Find a suggested tip exorbitant, especially. Look, listen to this now. And this is from somebody, from the customer, right? There are customers who are afraid because they feel like if they say anything about what is happening to them, something is going to get inside their meal that they don't want. That is a very real sentiment I hear all the time. Sometimes I even tip more because I know their base pay isn't that much, and they make
a lot of people. What exactly? That is how I tip, like Mika. I know how the food industry is. So as somebody who has been on the inside, I definitely cannot go without not tipping. I can't. But when you realize that it is low, you need to ask yourself some questions.
And like he's saying, complain after. Tiana is saying she goes into the restaurant and depending on the ambience, she knows the tip in her head. Okay. This is something that the managers have to pay attention to because depending on how the place is, that is true because if you go to a cook shop, you're not going to have a tip in mind at all most times. If you go to
depending on the level of the establishment, the tip will vary. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I report after I'm done eating. So when you report after you're eating, would you go back to that restaurant, or are you afraid that they're going to remember you?
I have never worked anywhere where the level of unprofessionalism has been that great that people will do things to people food. Right? I'm pretty sure that if it can be proven, like, you can charge somebody for assault for that stuff. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, you can.
There's some real serious ramifications for doing that. Plus, most places have cameras now. Most places have cameras, right? Especially dealing with people food and stuff like that. People don't play, right?
Here's a question. Do we all think that all services should put an estimated tip on the bill?
No, because there are definitely industries that charge what they are worth, and so people don't necessarily, and people get paid accordingly. You don't necessarily need to tip. I don't think, but I think if you have a very pleasurable experience, money can communicate to someone that says, "Hey, this was good. You're good at what you do. Keep it up."
Yes, Andre, I agree with Dionne. I don't think they should put us estimated tip. It's very off-putting, and sometimes even if you had a lot of times you have a tip in your mind, and when you see that it's lower than what you had in mind, sometimes, and sometimes if it's higher, you feel like you're under pressure. So in both scenarios, you're putting the customer in a bad space. It's better to go ahead.
What people do now is just to help, as Anna K is saying, help with the calculations. They put a range, so they'll start at 5 and go up to like maybe 30. Right.
I agree. So wording is important. So if you just put percentages or something to say that this is a guide, or so, as opposed to saying estimated tip or suggested tip, wording is important.
Yeah. Hold on. What time is it? I have to go.
Yes, it's almost an hour. Instagram is going to kick us off. It might be helpful in tourist destinations to know the customs, but then they could always Google it. I suppose I don't want to do maths. No recommendation can pressure me so strong. in America, people tip in every industry. Never before I thought I needed to tip my nail tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are some people that I feel like over here you just have to tip. Just as Nas was saying, she tipped the nail tech even though the service was bad. And I find myself in that predicament here sometimes as well. But I think we just have to learn to not tip if we don't like it and find somewhere else to go.
Mhm. Yeah.
Did I say? I didn't see it. Where is that?
No, the same thing about the customs in the countries.
Oh, yes. A lot of service, particularly restaurants, have service charge above the food product cost. Why would a tip still be necessary? Oh, Cindy, Dionne had explained that to us earlier. So now we know that the service charge is something different from tips. But when we post the replay, you can hear what she was saying.
Yeah, as exactly what Anaki said. In terms of culture, Caribbean tipping is a privilege, not a right. Whereas in America, they treat it as a right.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment for us for sure. But trust me, when you work in the service industry abroad, you get to understand what make them say so. Yeah.
Yes.
Right, because I don't miss opening up a restaurant at 4 o'clock in the morning in the winter time. No thanks.
Well, we have to wrap up, guys, before Instagram kicks us off. But I want you to still send your questions. You can send them in our DM, so we can put some answers. Because tomorrow we're supposed to do the Q&A. You can also let me know if you want it to be live like this, or I will just put the option in the stories and we'll answer there. So it will be there for a longer period of time. So unless you have any final thoughts, Kelly, what is Kelly saying? Here is a tip: stop pressuring me. Especially sole trader, no tips. I don't understand what you're saying, Anaki. I'm not gonna pay my nail tech and tip her too. No, son, live. Hi, how it was done. Looking forward to the next one. Very inside. I used to work with a girl who used to demand tips. We need a part 2. Alright, okay. Thank you guys so much. And remember that the blog, getthespike.com. The blog has a lot of information there, so you will be able to use it if you are a customer, if you are the manager, or if you are staff. So check it out, and we're gonna have some guest bloggers coming up soon. So check it out, keep in touch with us, and it was great to be here with you guys tonight. See you again.